All right, how's it going, everybody? Paul here with Road Trip Tiny Trucker is going to be my YouTube name. I'm sitting inside the truck today because it's rainy outside and didn't want to stand outside and get all wet. So what I want to talk to a little bit about today is just a couple of what we're going to do, kind of give you a brief overview, a short little introductory episode. What I'm planning on doing is kind of giving a weekly episode on hotshotting, on what I'm doing, on the pluses, the ups and downs, how I set it up, how I went about it, and a lot of different information. So hopefully as I learn, because I've only been doing this about 2 weeks, so as I learn, hopefully I can kind of relay that to you guys, and especially for those that are interested in getting into hotshotting. I know there's a lot of YouTube videos out there. There's a lot of good people. Start right off by shouting out to Josh Dowden, who kind of I used a lot of his YouTube videos to learn. He started out hotshotting. He's doing a lot more of the big trucks, but I think he still has some hotshot rigs now. But yeah, so I wanted to kind of just do these episodes, and moving forward, what I plan on doing, I'm going to get clever, and I'm going to do some window whiteboards where we're going to actually use the exterior windows, and I'm going to get some chalk pens, and we'll kind of go through some of the numbers on how some of this works, and that type of thing when it's not raining out. So for the first episode, what I'd like to do is introduce myself. So my name is Paul Johnson, owner of Road Trip Transport. My wife is also a co-owner, and we started the company. First load was about mid-March, and I'm out now. I'm currently load number 7's on the back there. It delivers tomorrow morning. I started the Hotshot company, did a lot of research into it, and the reason why I went with Hotshot was two main reasons. One was the actual rental of the truck. I'm going to explain the rental in a future episode. That'll probably be our next episode, is to go through the numbers and show why I chose renting over buying. And I'll show you I'll also give you some information on the rental company, and because I think the more people that rent, the more successful they are, the better their prices can get, and the better security I have that they stick around. So I will touch base on that in the next episode. Okay, next we're going to give an outline for what I plan on doing in these episodes. The first thing I'm going to do is give a weekly recap of the previous week, how it went, anything stands out, anything new I learned. And then I'm going to, if anybody has questions in the comments, I'm going to try to address those questions and answer them, as long as I haven't answered them in a video, or make an episode about that question. So that's kind of the plan for it. I'm also going to show an overview of my rig, again, when I got a nice place to park and I'm not surrounded by trucks sitting in a truck stop. So weekly recap for this week. Like I said, I've taken 7 loads. 3 of those were 2 weeks ago, or about 3 weeks ago. I took a little bit of time off. And then I've taken 4 loads this week. Started on Tuesday. Every load's been different. I hauled scaffolding. Then I hauled a forklift, one single forklift that pretty much maxed me out on weight. So I got to actually use the ramps for the first time on the back of the trailer. And then I hauled these blocks that they use to string high wire, when they're pulling new high wire on the big power lines. Hauled that to South Carolina, and I picked up a load at the military. I actually have some generator trailers on the back right now, and they deliver tomorrow morning in New York. So I'm only about 30 miles from where I dropped that off. So that's kind of the weekly recap. I will say, and I'll go into it a little bit. I did have a small accident. Truck in front of me lost a 4x4 piece of dunnage. Dunnage is the piece that they put underneath the to hold the load. It came off, hit my truck, put a dent in the fender, and bashed up one of my toolboxes on the trailer. And I called the company. I'm going to call them out, CRST. They The guy did not have his dunnage rack secured, so one of the pieces, it's a 4x4x8 chunk of lumber, came off his dunnage rack. He would not pull over, so I pulled over and made a claim, and unfortunately, and luckily, my dash cam paid for itself. I doubt they would be moving forward with the claim. I'd have to file it through my insurance and then fight it. But the dash cam footage is pretty obvious. You can see the dunnage sliding down the road from the truck in front of me, and there's really nowhere I can go. It turned sideways, and I hit it. So didn't hurt the truck drivability, just a little dent in the fender, but it sounds like it's going to be taken care of. So one downside of this week. So that's the plan for the weekly episodes. We're gonna keep this one short. The topic I want to talk to you about today is ELDs. So electronic log. I want to get this out of the way right off the get-go. And ELDs more in line with what's hours of service. We see this a lot with in the industry. My dad's a truck driver and big rig, so I've heard about ELDs. I talk my wife's ear off about ELDs. It's not really the ELDs that's the problem, and you see this all the time. The ELD mandate came out about 2 years ago. What an electronic logging device is what an ELD is. And what that does is it tracks your driving. It tracks when you start driving, when you stop, when you're on duty, when you're off duty. On duty is performing work but not driving. Off duty is like what I'm doing now. I'm just sitting here. So it tracks all that. It tracks it automatically. It's actually got a connection to the truck, and it tells when the truck's moving, when it's not. It has GPS tracking. So the electronic logging device actually has a lot of cool benefits. The one to me is it's really easy to use. It's really easy to use. It's very good for tracking. I can actually run reports on for fuel taxes. I can run or road taxes. I can run reports on how many miles each truck drove in each state. It records all that. It tracks the trucks. It tracks their speeds. It tracks incidents. It's got a lot of good data that it takes. The problem is that the general public thinks that everyone has a problem with electronic logging devices, ELDs. You hear ELD mandate, it's bad. The ELD mandate did nothing but eliminate people being able to cheat on their logbooks. And people were cheating on logbooks because the hours of service are off. So let me explain these hours of service. These are essentially, and I'm not going to get the huge details, but it's essentially the government going crazy overboard on controlling exactly how you can run your day-to-day. And what that way that looks is the minute I start driving that truck, I have a 14-hour clock that starts. The minute I start driving that truck. Doesn't matter if I drive it 28 feet and stop. It records, well, there's some catches. Okay, 2 miles and stop. If I drive 2 miles down the road and stop, my 14-hour clock starts. So the problem with this is, like, I haven't had this issue as much because I'm flatbed, but big rigs have this. Let's say you deliver 2 hours away, and then you're sitting there 8 hours waiting for them to unload you. It doesn't matter, your 14-hour clock is ticking, which means at the end of that, you might have been taking a nap. But at the end of that, you only have 4 more hours to drive. You might be wide awake, ready to go, but it doesn't matter. At the end of that 4 hours, your 14 hours are done. You have to sit for 10 hours. Well, you might not be tired at that point. So now you're up, you're trying to fall asleep, you can't. Finally, you fall asleep, you get 2-3 hours. Well, now your clock's reset. You have to get up and start driving again because you need to get that load to where you're going. So the hours of service is absolutely incredibly stupid government regulation. It really is. It is an awful regulation that they put in to try to be safe, to try to improve safety, because there were people abusing the system. There were people trying to drive 20 hours a day. There were people that were dangerous on the road, but they were the minority. It's like anything else with the government. They govern to the minority. And so they came out with these hours of service, and all they've done is actually make the vast majority of the people who were driving safely have to drive unsafe. I'll give you a perfect example. The other night, I was driving. It was 5:00 p.m. I was wide awake. There was a nice truck stop a lot closer to my result, or to my destination. I was wide awake, perfectly willing, perfectly able to drive, no problems whatsoever. But nope, I had to shut down because I hit my 14 hours. So I had to stop. I had to find a place to park, and I had to be down. Now, my 10 hours starts right then. So that puts me at, so you're looking at 3 in the morning is when my 10 hours are now up. Well, I'm not on a nighttime sleep schedule, so 5 o'clock I'm wide awake. I can't fall asleep. So now I don't go to sleep until 8, 9. Now I get a few hours of sleep, but I got to be back up and driving because I need to get my load there the next day. So now I'm tired because it's 3 o'clock in the morning. So my point being that I've only been doing this for 2 weeks, and the pure stupidity of these hours of service is just incredible to me that they don't see it. And the problem is you have the same thing with anything government run. You have a bunch of bureaucrats in there. They don't have a clue what the trucking industry is, and I don't either. I've only been doing it 2 weeks, but I already see how absolutely stupid the hours of service are, and how they take the vast majority of the people who were driving safely and now force them to drive unsafely, force them to drive tired, and force them to sit when they're not tired, when they could be driving safely and get closer to the destination before they start getting tired and go to sleep. It's mind-boggling to me that we took the minority of the people that were driving very unsafely, and there were some, I will say that, and to try to fix it, we now made everybody forced to drive tired and stay awake when they're not, and park when they're not tired. It's incredible. And the other thing is you only get 11 hours to drive out of that 14. Now that seems like a lot, 11 hours to drive out of the 14. But once you hit that 11, now you're starting your clock over. So if your 11 ends at 3 p.m., now your 10-hour clock starts, which means now I'm ready to start going again at 1 a.m. Well, that's not a normal time for people to wake up, but because I had to shut down at 3, I have to wake up at 1 and go. So my point is that if you'd like a better explanation of what the hours of service are, oh, and there's another thing thrown in there. Can't drive more than 8 hours without a 30-minute break. So all that happens, and it's a 30-minute mandatory break, and it's recorded on your ELD. So what happens is every truck driver, they don't try to, it's only 30 minutes. It's tough to park these things. You got to go find a parking spot. You got to back a trailer in. It's tough, especially the big ones. Me, I'm pretty easy. I'm small, but those big trucks, they're hard to park. So what do? They pull into a fueling island where they're getting fuel, and they sit for 30 minutes, and they block that fueling island. Well, they don't have to. They could figure out a better way, but it's government mandated. You know, it's unbelievable. And again, this is anecdotal, but the first night I drove, I was 15 minutes. It was midnight. I was 15 minutes from where I was stopping for the night, a safe place to stop at a truck stop, and I ran out of time. I had to pull over on an off ramp, sit on the off ramp unsafely for 30 minutes while I'm getting more tired, waiting for that 30 minutes to be up so I could drive 15 more minutes down the road to park and go to sleep for the night. It's absolute stupidity. It is. Yeah, so I wanted to get my hours of service rant out of the way right up front, and I want to point out that I know a lot of people around me have heard this before. My dad and I talk about it all the time, but the pure idiocy of it is mind-boggling. So that's the hours of service. The problem is, and you'll hear people say, oh, the ELD mandate's awful. No, the problem is not the ELD mandate. The problem is the hours of service. ELDs just make sure you follow the rules that have been there forever. The problem was in the past, people could they were actually being safer by avoiding blizzards, by avoiding thunderstorms, pulling over and stopping, waiting until they pass, by not driving through the downtown traffic in the middle of rush hour. They could fudge their logbooks. It was actually safer to do that because the hours of service are the problem, not the ELDs. So just wanted to get that off my chest. So we're coming at 15 minutes. I think that's a pretty good first episode. Some of them, I'm going to plan on keeping them about 30 minutes once I start getting into it. So if you have any questions, please put them in there. Please follow me, subscribe. I'm going to do one of these a week. And yeah, thank you. And it's Road Trip Tiny Trucker is what I'm going with because we are small. I'm doing the Hotshot deal. So I'm in a rant, and I'll show you guys the rig next time. That's what we'll do. We'll find a nice place, and I'll do an episode with the actual rig. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.